Roger, Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com, from the town of Spokane in New Orleans, where you are a trending topic once again. Just in time for Mardi Gras.
Can't wait to see that.
Can you address the no call that marred the end of the NFC Championship Game, specifically what and how the league handled it internally, both that night and in the days thereafter? Will there be any repercussions on the officials involved? And finally, what can the league do, if anything, to ensure that something like this doesn't happen again?
Well, Jeff, let me start just on the basis, listen, we understand the frustration of the fans. Talk to Coach Payton, the team, the players. We understand the frustration that they feel right now, and we certainly want to address that. So whenever officiating is part of any kind of discussion post-game, it's never a good outcome for us. We know that, our clubs know that, our officials know that. But we also know our officials are human. We also know that they're officiating a game that moves very quickly and have to make snap decisions under difficult circumstances. And they're not going to get it right every time. As I say, they're human. We have worked very hard to bring technology in to try to make sure we could do whatever's possible to address those issues. But technology is not going to solve all those issues. The game is not officiated by robots. It's not going to be. But we have to continue to go down that path. Go back specifically on Sunday night. I think Coach Payton spoke to Al Riveron, our head of officials, immediately after the game. Al told him that that's a play we want to have called. I have spoken to him. Troy Vincent, the head of football operations, has spoken to him. I've spoken to Mrs. Benson. Coach has also spoken to the competition committee, Rich McKay, chairman. So there's been a great deal of communication and making sure that they understand that. As far as where we can go, we will look again at instant replay. There have been a variety of proposals over the last frankly, 15, 20 years. Should replay be expanded? It does not cover judgment calls. This was a judgment call. The other complication is that it was a no call. And our coaches and clubs have been very resistant, and there has not been support to date about having a replay official or somebody in New York throw a flag when there's no flag. They have not voted for that in the past. It doesn't mean that we won't. It's something that we're going to put to the competition committee to see if there's an answer to that. But the reality is that's been at least an opposition philosophically for many clubs.
Roger, Bob Glauber over here from Newsday. Has your thinking evolved on the idea of using replay to cover officiating calls? And if so, do you have a line of thinking about whether you would recommend to the competition committee, which you have done before on other issues, that they think seriously about including penalties in the replay review system?
Well, Bob, first off, I thought you were going to ask about AR, but you didn't today. But as it relates to what I think my role is to make sure that the competitions committee understands that this is critical for us to analyze, to evaluate, and try to see if there's a better solution than what we have today. As you know, our rules do evolve. We have made changes to our rules every year. We try to get better, we try to learn. And I think that has been very effective. I think the game has never been healthier. I don't think the game has ever been officiated at this level. It's extraordinary. And I want to say about our officials, they're men and women of high integrity. And they're people that, when people are talking about officiating, they know that's not the outcome they want. And so I know they're disappointed also, but they work hard to make sure we improve officiating, and I think they do an excellent job. But as I say, they're human. I think the committee will definitely consider this. Is always what happens in the competition committee is not just considering a solution, but what are the unintended consequences to that solution. And that's part of this issue of not wanting a replay official or a official back in New York throwing a flag on a no call. If that happens, you could have multiple fouls on a play that people are looking at. Now, there's solutions for this, and I'm not suggesting that. That's what the committee has to focus in on. What are the solutions? What are the unintended consequences? And come up with something that we think can keep the competitive nature of our game, but also improve efficiency.
Roger, over here, Mark Maskey from the Washington Post.
Yes, Mark.
Roger, did you believe that the NFL rulebook gave you the authority to overturn the result of the Rams-Saints games if you had chosen to do so in order the game replayed from the point of the missed call? And if so, did you give any consideration at all to that?
Mark, absolutely not. I mean, I think it's clear, and I actually wrote down the rule, which I think has been distributed to the media, that the commissioner will not apply his authority in cases of complaints by clubs concerning judgmental errors or routine errors by game officials. Games involving such complaints will continue to stand as completed. So that was not a consideration.
Hey, Roger, Jared Bell, USA Today. I got a 2-for-1 here.
You always do, Jared.
But, just to add on to the discussion about expanded replay and obviously knowing your involvement and your recommendations in the past on things like the catch rule, is it almost fair to expect it to be a bare minimum that you will kind of advise the committee to consider helmet to helmet as a reviewable play as you talk about expanding instant replay? That's the first question. The second one is about the Kaepernick effect. When you think about the stain on the NFL shield, which is reflected by artists not wanting to associate with the NFL and the halftime show and things of that nature, what can you do to reverse that sentiment?
Well, let me start with your helmet-to-helmet issue. I'm not going to advise on a solution to the helmet-to-helmet. That's what our committee is for. I will work with them. I'll meet with them. I'll give them my opinion. We'll push the committee to make sure that we're thinking about every creative solution possible. But when you go back and look at the season on the helmet-to-helmet, I think the changes that were made were extraordinarily important to our players and to the game of football. I think most people would have seen it very easily. I certainly noticed, and our football people noticed, a change in the way the game's played. It was safer. Techniques that we find dangerous to our players were taken out of the game, and that's critical. And I believe that our players and our coaches did a marvelous job of adjusting to that. There was a lot of discussion, as you know, prior to the season. We dealt with it with fouls on the field, fines, and also warning letters. I think we had less than 10 repeat offenders throughout the entire season. So that demonstrates to me a tremendous job by everyone. People in our office in football operations, our players, our coaches, communicating, understanding what we're looking for. And this was driven by our coaches, Jared, as you know. And I think that's the critical nature of this. And so we're going to look at that, see what else we can do. That may or may not include replay. We'll have to look at that. And your second one, we have great artists performing all week here in Atlanta. We're extremely pleased with the diversity, the quality, and the excitement around our entertainers. And this is the biggest stage in the world. And I know people want to be part of that.
But can you at least acknowledge, Roger, that there is a segment of people that don't want to be associated because of the Kaepernick situation? I mean,
Jared, just to be clear for something, we have close to 200 million fans, as I talked to before. We know that their segments are going to have different reactions to different things in the field in our league. But ultimately, I think people respect and admire the things we do and want to be part of it. Yes.
Hi, I'm Kevin Clancy. How do you balance being a fan of the game and commissioner at the same time?
Well, that's a really good question, Kevin. Listen, the number one thing is I am a fan. I like to tell people all the time, I became a fan when I was 5 years old, probably a little bit younger than you. And I loved the game, always did. And that hasn't changed at all. My passion for the game and my interest in the game is what drives me. And being able to help and support that as commissioner and to have an influence ultimately on the growth of the game, the success of the game, the health of the game is something that I don't think separates me from my role as a fan. I think the two go really well together. And I'm not sure you could do this job as commissioner without being a very enthusiastic and passionate fan. It's a good question, Kim.
Roger, Sal Palantonio from ESPN. Good afternoon.
Hey, Sal.
Roger, going back to the situation in New Orleans in the NFC Championship game, I think football fans all over the country, and especially in New Orleans, just want to hear in your own words what you may have said to Coach Payton or Mrs. Benson about the situation and what you thought of the play.
Sal, I just, you know that I never disclose my private conversations with anybody. I was very open, just as I was here. It's a play that should be called. We're going to make sure that we do everything possible to address the issues going forward and see if there are improvements that we can make through instant replay or anything else. I understand the emotions. It's important as commissioner and all of our staff, which several of us have done, is to hear that emotion, whether it's frustration, disappointment, anger. Those are things, quite frankly, I hear frequently during the season from clubs. But I understand the stage, and I understand the importance of it to New Orleans and to this franchise and to the NFL. And so I made them aware of the fact that I was committed to doing everything possible to think outside the box and try to come up with solutions.
Roger, Judy Batista from the NFL Network.
Hi, Judy.
Good morning. Several former game officials say that perhaps one way to avoid missing calls, the way the game is being played, is to add an official to the crews. I'd like to know what your feeling is on that. And also, if that does not happen and there are no rules changes involving instant replay, are you comfortable going into the 2019 season with things status quo, given what we just saw in the NFC Championship game?
Two things. One is, I am, if we go through the process of fully evaluating, are there changes we can make? If we determine that it is not in the best interest of the game, through the competition committee and through our membership, that's how we operate. And as long as we do that with a sincere effort to improve the game, that's where we'll go. On the first part of it, I don't think adding an official is an answer to all the issues, and to particularly this issue. We have evaluated an eighth official for many years. It's on the competition committee agenda. It has been for several months. And so we will explore that. But I think that in and of itself is not just going to be a simple that will avoid all mistakes. Again, adding an eighth official is one more human. One more human that will make mistakes like all the rest of us.